Order. Double N. Order. Is that Ngelechei or double N? The exuberance and loud conversations are disrupting even the speaker to hear what the member on the floor is saying.
Mr. Speaker, what I was saying was very important, so I may need to repeat it. Mr. Speaker, the provision under Clause 4 is very, very, very dangerous. And I would urge that this matter is looked into, because now, Mr. Speaker, those farmers in the village who, after producing their crops, sell their produce, will be required to surrender 1.5% of the gross produce to this housing levy. Mr. Speaker, this is punitive. This is going to lead to unnecessary harassment of ordinary Kenyans by Kenya Revenue Authority. And I can see Leader of Majority is laughing. He actually said when he was moving this motion that they are very happy because government is going to receive more money. But why should you be happy when the same hustlers are suffering, Mr. Speaker, just because you are getting more money to do things that are not so clear, like housing, providing houses to people who we don't even know. Mr. Speaker, this is something that needs to really be looked into and removed from this law, even though the judiciary mentioned about discrimination. There should be a better way, a more
Honorable members, I have been moved to call the mover to reply, but I'll give Honorable Otiende Amolo and one other member this side, then I call the mover to reply. Otiende Amolo? Okay.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Yes.
Mr. Speaker, this issue has various facets, but the first, which is of note, is the aspect that it increases the tax burden on Kenyans by a good 3%. And while most people are already familiar with the 3%, what they are not familiar with is the penalty that is also prescribed, that if you do not remit that 3% within 30 days, there's an additional penalty of another 3%. So that in any 1 month, you are in danger of having to pay 6%, which can actually be recovered by court action. Secondly, and this bears repetition, it must be borne in mind that as national government is endeavoring to do all this, Schedule 4, Clause 18, and Schedule Part 1 and Part 2 makes it very clear that no matter how well-intentioned the government may be, housing still remains a county function, function. And the only thing given to national government is the policy. This bill is not prescribing policy, it's prescribing the way of doing it. That will remain unconstitutional no matter how you couch it. Thirdly, Mr. Speaker, in terms of counties, this bill is very strange. It comes under the hand of the Honorable Kimani Ichungwa, and it purports in the purposes that it has nothing to do with counties. And yet, first of all, in the very face of the bill, Mr. Speaker, if you look at the bill, Clause 10 2C, Clause 12 3B1, both of them actually expressly mention the county. Besides, in their rendering of explanation, we have been told that actually they are getting land that is right now held by the counties. You cannot get land from the counties and say the bill does not concern counties, by definition and by law. It means, by whatever formulation, the bill must also involve the Senate, and it must also involve discussion with the county governments. Mr. Speaker, the question of land is not clear. This bill proceeds as if these units will be built in the air. There is no attempt to talk about land acquisition at all. In fact, more importantly, under the Constitution, whether it's land held on behalf of the county or on behalf of the national government, it is only the National Land Commission that is authorized to allocate that land. The bill does not even recognize the National Land Commission, and I've seen the submission by the commission itself. It was persuading the committee to have provisions on the process of land acquisition. Otherwise, you'll end up putting public money in land that is not even owned by the public. Mr. Speaker, this bill, in a very serious manner, makes several aspects that are very unclear. First, in terms of ownership. It does not make it clear whether we are talking of affordable ownership of houses or affordable rental of houses. It is totally confused. And if you look at Section 10 and 37 as read together, it's only talking about then paying a percentage of whatever, 10% actually, of whatever is deemed to be the worth of the unit. It doesn't say whether it's 10% represent the purchase price or the rental price. This bill again, Mr. Speaker, in trying to talk of administration, it becomes very confusing. In Section 11, the money is supposed to be divided 3 ways. Part of it is divided to the National Housing Corporation, another part to the slum upgrading program, and the third part to the State Department responsible for housing in Section 11. It then seeks to assume later in the bill that it is only the State Department and the board that is created that is administering the fund. The truth is, once you allocate land to the National Housing Corporation, to the slum upgrading fund, you have no means under the bill of then superintending it. It means that only 1/3 of the money allocated under this bill will be superintended by the board that is created. Mr. Speaker, in all fairness, the bill then does something very, very dangerous in Section 2A. And Mr. Speaker, we all know that the collector of taxes is the Kenya Revenue Authority. But this Section 2A then authorizes any other person appointed by the Cabinet Secretary for the time being responsible for National Treasury for the purposes of collection of funds under this Act. We are enabling an entity who is not even said to be a government entity to collect government taxes. We must be the only country that can do such a thing. And besides, you know that later on, 2% of the monies allocated are then allowed to be retained by this actor. Who is this person that we are giving the possibility of collecting monies that belong to Kenyans under this fund? Mr. Speaker, I wish to submit that however well-intentioned, this bill still requires a lot of proper analysis and engagement, not at the level of drafting, but at the idea level. It is still premature, it has not been well cooked, it is being rushed, it will end up being in problems. I so submit, Mr. Speaker. Thank you very much.
I'll give Kimani, then we can call the mover to reply.
Thank you, Mr.